It had been probably over 30 years since I've had an outright radio failure, but when this started, I knew exactly what it was right away. From everything that I could find out, it looks like the receiver just went bad, and this one's got a lot of hours on it. I don't know if I had any control at all at this point, but I was just trying to keep it away from the crowd. The result of the crash was that the airframe itself was a goner, but nothing inside took a very big hit. It appears the Valiant belly flopped onto the floats in some tall grass, and that cushioned the impact quite a bit. The airframe itself is junk, but nothing else got hurt. The receiver acted up again later on the bench, so I smashed it and threw it away. I do that to make sure that nobody else, including me, could ever put that receiver in an airplane again. I happen to have a dual receiver story on the bench, so I thought I might as well put it in the new Valiant. When you set up the model for a dual receiver, we go through and decide if you're going to have dual aileron servos and elevator servos, or if you're going to have one in the radio driving each. I'd rather have dual aileron and elevator servos because that gives us a lot more versatility down the road for adjusting things. I like to take a picture of this port assignment screen with my phone so I can refer to it later when we're putting the servos into the different receivers. These are the receivers that are going to go in the Valiant, and you notice that they're not identical. One's an 8-channel and one's a 9-channel. The important thing is that they're both Spectrum DSMX receivers. And I have this laid out pretty much how it'll be in the airplane. We have a left and a right side. Each receiver has its own battery and its own switch. They have to be separated like that to ensure redundancy. The first question people seem to have when you talk about dual receivers is how do you bind two receivers to one transmitter? And that's actually very easy. I turn the left receiver on in bind mode. Now we go to the transmitter and turn that on in bind mode just like we do any other setup. We let the radio go through the bind process, and once everything is bound up, we shut the receiver off and then shut the transmitter off. Remember that the receivers learn the transmitter doesn't learn the receiver, so it doesn't care how many receivers it has bound to it. Next, I turn the right receiver on, also in bind mode. Then once again we start up the same transmitter in bind mode again and let it bind to the right receiver. It doesn't matter which receiver you bind first or last or whatever. We just bind them individually till they get bound up, and then once again we shut the receiver off and then the transmitter off. Here I have both receiver systems set up with servos so we can see how things are moving. That's the rudder moving right there. Now here when I operate the ailerons, you can see both sides move and both elevators move. With both receivers working, the plane flies normally. Now we'll shut off the right side receiver. Now the left aileron and left elevator works. The throttle is hooked to the left receiver, but I use the engine kill in the right receiver so I have a better chance of controlling the engine should something go wrong. Now it's just the right receiver on. You can see that I still have right elevator and right aileron. And I chose to put the rudder in the right side receiver. Here I have the system mounted in the Valiant and all of the servos plugged in. It's got a bunch of wiring to it, but it's pretty easy to lay out if you just pay attention as you go. I stack the batteries like this just to conserve some space, but they each have their own switch mounted on each side of the airplane. You can put the switches wherever you like. I just like this arrangement. And I put the switches in the same place on either side of the plane. Here I have both of the receivers on, so all of the control surfaces work fine. Now I'll shut off the right side, and you see only the left side aileron and elevator works. On a lot of planes you can land it with only one side of the controls working. And that's exactly what we're hoping for with a dual receiver system like this. Here I've got my new Valiant, my new floats, and my new dual receiver system at the Smith Lake Fly-In where we lost the first Valiant. That crash was caused by the receiver that had a lot of time on it and it finally failed. And I'm happy to report that the dual receiver system worked just fine. So if you think you need to add some redundancy to your plane, this is one way to do it. The system isn't hard to do and it isn't overly expensive, but it can prevent a plane from doing this.